The Big Show and Letters to Lars. Obviously, because these aren't back-to-back numerically, they weren't aired together as a single episode or anything. The reason I'm choosing to review these episodes together is because I feel they are two episodes where the contents of them, while very interesting and very good, and certainly worth watching, of course, isn't the most interesting thing about the episodes. The concept of the episodes is the most interesting thing about the episodes. These two episodes feel like a shift in the way stories are told in Steven Universe regarding the townspeople and the town. One of the most stale aspects of Steven Universe lately has been what the fandom has come to call townie episodes. And while I will say this right out the gate, I don't hate those episodes. I can't hate those episodes because I watch this show for the entire show. I watch this show in part because I like those characters and want to see what's going on in their lives. With as much time as this show focuses on the townspeople, I wouldn't watch it if I didn't like them and want to know what's going on in their lives. But while all that is true, townie episodes have become really stale lately. They tend to be slow and monotonous, focusing on relatively minor, small parts in these characters' lives. Lately, they've been feeling more and more like filler with each and every instance where they show up. These two episodes change that, and I'm hoping this marks a shift. I'm hoping the fact that we got two episodes like this so close together means that change is a permanent one, that the storytelling for these types of episodes has shifted forever. The Big Show is about Sadie and her band, Sadie Killer and the Suspects. It's told from Steven's point of view as he records some of their daily activity on an old camcorder. Greg signs on as their band manager and sponsor, helps them get a show at a big city venue. They perform, they kill it. Now they actually have potential careers as rock stars. There's all kinds of character stuff sprinkled in there. We get more tidbits of Sadie's relationship with her mother Barb. We learn that she hasn't really been telling Barb much about her activities with the band because finally she has this thing that is just hers that her mother isn't meddling in, and she wants to keep it that way. But after she has a talk with Greg and hears how his parents never supported any of his creative endeavors, let alone his music, she actually ends up realizing by the end of the episode that she wants her mother to be involved. She just doesn't want her mother to smother her. Letters to Lars is framed as Steven delivering letters to Lars. And for a while, I thought the show had finally broken its Steven's perspective only rule, but then they slipped something in at the end that was actually really funny and proved that they hadn't, which simultaneously made me happy and also disappointed me, but what are you going to do? Lars and the Off-Colors are still trying to get their Nova thrusters online so they can get back to Earth. And while they wait, Lars is treated to letters regarding what's going on around town. He hears that Sadie is doing super well and that her band is becoming really successful, which makes him visibly happy, and that was really touching to me. And then Steven goes on to tell him just other stuff that's going on around town, and it's edited down. It's very concise, fast-paced, and to the point. There's a lot of really great comedic scenes, like where we learn that Amethyst and Peridot are involved with some other people in an improv group, which performs regularly for pretty much just Steven and Pearl. That scene was great for reasons that I'm not even going to risk spoiling for you guys. We get to see how well Nanifua Pizza is working out as mayor. She looks like she's moved all operations from whatever kind of town hall the town has. There's got to be one, because we saw Dewey in it at one point, if I recall correctly, to the Fish Stew Pizza shop, which I thought was just hilarious. But she's really good at it. She's a really effective leader. She's brought in a bunch of the townspeople as well as the crystal gems, and they're all working together to improve defenses. In fact, the telescope that we see at the top of the lighthouse in the recap promo video is only there because the group of people that she put together came to the conclusion that they could use a telescope to watch the sky and potentially warn them ahead of time of any incoming gem attacks. And that's far from the only thing that they're doing to protect themselves. It was really neat to see, and was especially neat to see that she's not excluding the gems from these discussions. I was really worried that she would end up blaming the crystal gems for the actions of Homeworld, and she hasn't been, and I'm really proud of her for that. Not to mention proud of the writers for not falling into that old trope of the regular folks distrusting the different people. But it's not just all disjointed stories. There's a through line of former Mayor Dewey trying to discover what his new place in the world is, which eventually culminates, just like everybody predicted, in him coming to work at the Big Donut. Letters for Lars is, I think, overall the best structured episode of these 4 episodes. Specifically because it does tell so many stories. It does weave together so many aspects of the narrative. There's just one tidbit after another included in this episode that's just really good to know. As a viewer of this show, I'm glad that I know these things. I'm glad that I have this insight into what's going on in town, but I'm also glad that they didn't take like 3 or 4 episodes to tell me all this stuff. In what I'm calling the old towny format, Sadie Killer and the Suspects partnering with Greg would have been its own episode. Then them getting their own gig in Empire City would have been its own episode. Nanifua as mayor would have had its own episode. The improv thing probably would have gotten its own episode, and the thing with Mayor Dewey probably would have gotten its own episode. That's 5 episodes, all dedicated to the townies, all with practically nothing going on in them. Instead, they were shortened down to 2 episodes, which were fast-paced, super interesting, and even creatively framed, which is something that this show doesn't do often. It doesn't frame its episodes in a creative way very often. Not to mention that The Big Show gave us 2 new songs. The first of the 2 was incomplete, but still there. It was Sadie Killer and the Suspects, a song named after their band. Sort of one of those self-affirmation, name declaration types of songs that bands tend to do from time to time. The other was another full-fledged musical number in the tradition of their first song. This one was titled Ghost, and was another super meaningful song to Sadie's character, being about wanting people to see you for who you really are. Now, I will admit I didn't like either one of these songs as much as I liked Working Dead. Sadie Killer and the Suspects, for example, I thought was just too 70s pop, if that makes any sense. It didn't really seem to fit the gimmick of their band super well. But those are nitpicks. They were still good songs, technically speaking, and were an excellent bonus to the episode, which had some really neat background details in it too. Like, for example, right here. Do you see it? Do you see it yet? That's right. It's a cameo from Mystery Girl. And at the very end of the episode, when Steven finally turns the camcorder around and points it at himself, we actually get to see Steven in something other than his star shirt. He's wearing one of the Sadie Killer and the Suspects t-shirts. Not to mention that we learn a little bit more about Greg's past and his history as a musician. He even met somebody he used to know from his time as a rock star. There were just so many great tidbits and background details in this episode that I've probably missed some, despite the fact that I've watched this episode now 3 times through. Both of these episodes are great and I think should be taken as the new golden standard for how to write a townie episode. If these are an indication of things to come, if future episodes follow in the example of these, I think it's likely that townie episodes will rapidly stop being episodes that many fans dread. But as per usual, guys, I'd like to know, what did you think of these 2 episodes? If you have seen them, let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below or over on my Discord. Link in the description. Either way, though, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.
Well, it's a big show.